Salute, salute. Welcome to Damu Caouette Conversation, the Hip Hop Police Docu series. Introduction to COINTELPRO and the crooked cops involved. You know, they profile us. They target us with these informants, agent provocateurs. So we left off, and it was talking about the death of the late, great Tupac Shakur. This is all we left of the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Pictures, video of the fight. We left wondering what's going on. Right? There goes the shop vehicle. There goes the crime scene. You know what I'm saying? So what we gonna do, we gonna get rid of that. We gonna start introducing y'all to what was going on with this investigation and the police players that were involved. Let's go like this. Damu Caouette Conversations. Okay.
Sheriff's Department, as well as myself and my partner, Paul Fournier. Again, Timmy Brennan, Paul Fournier, and myself, and Bobby Ladd were involved.
Tim Brennan, Paul Fournier, this is Detective Caouette. Detective Caouette, his partner, Paul Fournier, Bobby Ladd, Robert Ladd from Compton Gang Unit, and Timothy Brennan.
Originally, after the Tupac murder, with all the chaos that was going on in the Compton-Linwood area. For those that don't know, Compton and Linwood butt up to one another, and it's really no hard borders there. So it's it was a war zone for a couple weeks after the murder. And as far as our responsibilities, and that, I think it was Greg was counting on our knowledge of the players that were involved back in the 90s, because this was, 15 years after or so that this task force was assembled. So he was counting a lot on the knowledge as well as the reports. And
so he says that there was a bloodbath after Tupac's unaliving, right? Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me get back up on here. All right. So he said it was a bloodbath after Tupac's unalive in the Compton-Linwood area, which is close to the Bob territory off Long Beach Boulevard. Like he said, it's no hard borders right there. Let's go to this real quick. We'll get into this one real quick. Hold on. Let's go down here. See if I can show y'all this. Bear with me. Bear with me. I don't know why my computer is taking this long to allow me to copy this link. And we're going to go into introducing you guys to some of these main characters, right? And one of the main characters in this, you just seen Detective Michael Caouette, who was at LA Sheriff's Department. And we're going to get into the LA Sheriffs and their mode operandi, what they're notorious for doing, how they carry on their work. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. But first, I want to get y'all to this PowerPoint and share this with y'all. so that I can explain to you guys who's who, with no relations to do with the Homies podcast. So here you go. We go back all the way to the DeJa34, and we'll get into that later. But these two, the DeJa34 investigation into Shaquille O'Neal, Money Mark Stevens, and Stutterbox ended up crossing paths later on down the line with the investigation of Biggie Smalls, and which is also allegedly, hypothetically, and theorized to be tied to the Tupac Shakur unaliving. So let's get to Detective Russell Poole first, right? So Detective Russell Poole is a former LAPD robbery homicide detective. He led the lead investigator in Liga gang shooting. He also investigated alleged station house beating of a gang member by crash officer Brian Hewitt. Detective Poole was met with resistance inside the LAPD to fully investigate the murder of Christopher Wallace and to fully investigate the corruption of Officer Kevin Gaines by department leadership. You talk about Chief Bernard Parks all the way down. He later is pulled off of the cases and reassigned and eventually pushed out of the department. His reports on the incidents are gutted, and much of the information disappears along with Frank Liger's personal package. Package meaning Frank Liger's dirty reputation and complaints against him. A confession letter to the murder of Tupac and attempt to murder Suge Knight is written in 1998 as dictated by Malcolm Patton, one of the shooters, and given to Fox 11 journalist Chris Blatchford. Chris Blatchford also talks to Malcolm Patton about the murder and provides a written statement on his confession. That letter details that the conspiracy to commit murder began in Balboa, clearly giving Los Angeles jurisdiction over the case. So you're talking about where the jurisdiction of Tupac was unalived in Las Vegas, but if there was a conspiracy to commit the unaliving that began in Los Angeles, there's a legal argument on who should have run the investigation, and he had a confession letter which would give jurisdiction over the Tupac murder case to Los Angeles. June 24th, 2014, Russell Poole and R.J. Bond met with 4 representatives from the LAPD and provided them with a copy of the confession letter. They placed special markings on the letter and received assurances the information will be investigated. Oh, we're going to take care of it. Thank you for giving us the confession letter. Instead, the confession letter was leaked 6 days after the letter appears on the internet. Suge Knight is shot in West Hollywood nightclub by assailants that yell, "You killed Tupac," as they fire shots at Knight. The attempt to derail the confession letter is traced back to Reggie Wright Jr. and Darren Dupree, one of the cops that Russell and RJ gave the confession letter to. Damn, this is nasty work. So I want to show, I'll stop right there because I want to show y'all a photo of Detective Russell Poole so that you can match a face with him, the original the original detective on the Tupac Shakur investigation and the investigation of Biggie Smalls unaliving. Let me show y'all this picture real quick. Then we're going to get on into some of the other players. So here you go right here. This is Detective Russell Poole. If you've never seen him, this is his book, The Labyrinth. Oh my goodness. There it goes right there. That's Detective Russell Poole. And here's a little summary of different stuff as it relates to him. So that's put that face with the information that I just provided you, right? Let's get to let's get back to some of these other cops. So they talked about Darren Dupree. Let's bring Darren Dupree back up. Introduce you guys to him. He comes in later as part of the task force with Greg Caden. Greg Caden made sure he went and got Darren Dupree. But before we get to Darren Dupree, a matter of fact, let me get back to the officers that Detective Michael Caouette was talking about, who were initially on the investigation. He said Brian Tyndall is the one that hired the task force later on. We could kill that all. Let's go. Okay, so he said Brian Tyndall. Hope you guys can see that. And this is what we got on Brian Tyndall. He told the chief of the LAPD that Russell Poole believes David Mack was involved in a conspiracy to kill Biggie Smalls. Brian Tyndall, the lead investigator, views members of the task force team investigating Rampart have come to believe Rafael Perez is not just a rogue cop deciding to come clean. He's a brilliant manipulator who may have misdirected their inquiry. He's a convict. He's a perjurer. He's a dope dealer. So we don't believe a word that he say. That's very, very crazy of a position to take because it's irrational. It's emotional. And what that makes me believe is the guy who later put together the task force was biased because Rafael Perez was exposing his co-workers. These police officers dream of being police officers, or they failed in the life that they were leading before, and now they're police officers, and then they get involved and go over the line once they don't even have the power and wear the drawers in their home, most of which, and now they're put in a position of authority and they abuse that authority, right? Rafael Perez, information that he provided, and we're going to get into that and let you know who Rafael Perez is. But this guy says he doesn't believe a word that he says, even though it resulted in the overturning of hundreds of cases. Even though the city of Los Angeles and the LAPD paid millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. But you don't believe a word that he says? That sounds like somebody who starts from a biased position. And this is the guy who started that, Let's go. He said, Detective Timothy Brennan. Brennan was born in Chicago, Illinois, March 2nd, 1959. November 16th through 2021 is when he passed away. Both of his grandfathers were Chicago PD from the 1920s through the 1950s. Gang wars of Al Capone and the Italian gangsters versus Bugs Moran and the Irish gangsters. So his grandfathers were police who lived through an era of gangsterism in Chicago. In 1982, Timothy Brennan joined the Compton Police Department. In 1988, he was promoted to the Compton Gang Unit, as a detective. He worked on the murder investigations of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls with the LAPD. In 1996, Brennan and Robert Ladd assisted the Las Vegas Police Department in the investigation of Tupac's murder. Well, if Brennan wrote a gang warrant affidavit that named Orlando Baby Lane Anderson as a suspect. So you got a sheriff, a Compton Police Department officer writing a police warrant affidavit naming Baby Lane Orlando Anderson as a suspect in the murder of Tupac Shakur. When the jurisdiction for that crime in 1996, that jurisdiction would obviously start, unless you have evidence otherwise, in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he was unalive. Notorious B.I.G. in 1997, Brennan was assigned to help the LAPD investigate the murder of Notorious Big. He also worked on a Notorious Big task force investigation from 2006 to 2007. So in 1997, when Biggie was first unalive, there was one investigation, right? This is the investigation that Detective Russell Poole headed. And Brennan somehow was put on that one. But he also worked on the Notorious Big resuscitated investigation with the task force, which was headed by Greg Kading. His claim to fame is that he arrested Eazy-E. Okay, I see that your claim to fame has something to do with hip-hop. Biggie, Tupac, Eazy-E. You got a real specialty in these type of cases. These is the type of investigations that you like to get into when you were alive. Claim that Baby Lane's initiation was to shoot at him in McDonald's drive-thru. This is what Detective Brennan claimed. He testified in a Notorious Big wrongful death lawsuit as a gang expert, claiming that he knows nearly every gang member in Compton, adding that David Mack was not one of them. Well, I wonder if he knew Soulja Boy or Chris Brown. You know what I'm saying? Like, people from my hood don't know everybody from their hood. I don't know. I know of, but I don't know everybody from Fruitown Brent. But this police right here says that he knows almost every gang member, not just from one hood, in all of Compton. And this is what he testified at the Biggie Smalls Notorious Big wrongful death lawsuit. He said he claims he's an expert on Tupac and Notorious Big murder cases. How much of an expert could you be if neither one led to a conviction of suspects? He investigated and or assisted investigations involving Tupac, Suge, DJ Quick, Eazy-E, Snoop Dogg, Lil Eazy-E, The Game, and Biggie Smalls. Reggie Wright Sr. was Brennan's sergeant. So this guy was a pupil of Reggie Wright Sr. How convenient. And I don't believe in conspiracies, but don't this got to be some kind of like conflict of interest when you have Reggie Wright Jr. as a suspect in both of these unalivings? The Reggie Wright Jr. is a suspect in the murder of Biggie Smalls and a suspect in the murder of Tupac Shakur. He was just listed as that in a motion by a private investigator and the attorney, Akeefe D. Nasty work. Brennan's partner, Detective Robert Ladd, born February 19, 1959 in Hawthorne, California, and lived in Garden Grove, worked as a reserve GGPD. He joined the Compton PD in 1982. He partnered with Brennan in 1985. He was not a part of the LAPD Biggie Task Force. The LAPD Task Force finds a 40 Glock buried at alleged Southside Compton Crip member house, Corey Edwards, aided in the Tupac murder investigation. Investigated and or assisted investigations involving Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, DJ Quick, Eazy-E, Snoop Dogg, Little Easy, The Game, and Biggie. Reggie Wright Sr. chose Ladd and Brennan for their position. So not only was Reggie Wright Sr. Brennan's sergeant, he was the sergeant that chose Ladd and Brennan. They owe that position and promotion to the gang unit to Reggie Wright Sr., their big homie. Brennan and Ladd were assigned to assist Las Vegas Police Department in the Tupac murder. They were assigned. Who was their boss? Reggie Wright Sr. They were assigned to assist Las Vegas Police Department in the investigation of Tupac Shakur murder. Damn. Frank Liger, we can get to him later. Detective Caouette, who we just heard speaking, claims he was at the sheriff's office when Detective Russell Poole died. At one point claimed it was not a heart attack. So how did he die? Detective Caouette. He claims they met with Detective Poole to discuss Poole's theory of jurisdiction of where the Tupac murder conspiracy began, right? The same which came out in the confession letter, the same confession letter that was leaked by Detective Darren Dupree, who gave it to Detective Greg Caden. And they put him on, I wonder if that was his initiation to the task force. Heart attack gun. 12/24/2002 was investigating Suge Knight prior to high-profile raid by 175 sheriff deputies. After failed raid, Detective Caouette admitted that he approached Suge for information about the investigation, but Suge refused to help and was arrested for a parole violation. Oh, you don't want to provide information about who killed Tupac? Well, we're going to violate your parole. We brought 175 sheriff police deputies to raid your house and arrest you for a parole violation. If grandstanding wasn't a thing, I don't know what we would call that. He leaked to the press that there was a hit out on Suge Knight. So there's a lot of narratives being pushed out into the open. I thought that would muddy investigations, right? He was on the joint task force investigating Tupac and Biggie murders with Greg Caden. The whole purpose of the task force was to disprove a $400 million lawsuit filed by Biggie's mother and Faith Evans. Greg Caden's job was to prove or disprove LAPD involvement in Biggie's murder. That was the number one priority. On July 16, 2008, investigator Caouette spoke with Detective Cointellpro regarding the DeJa34 investigation, telling Cointellpro that they were assigned to a task force with the LAPD. Hey, look, you guys is investigating this DeJa34, Shaquille O'Neal, Mark Stevens, and the alleged kidnapping, robbery, assault, attempted extortion, and attempted blackmail case involving Robert Ross, a.k.a. Stutterbox. We're involved with this task force with the LAPD. And they were also involved in the Main Street Mafia Crip investigation. Do y'all see how there's two different investigations that crossed up? Three the Biggie Small murder investigation, which they're involved in, Tupac murder investigation, which they participated in, the DeJa34 investigation that Detective Cointellpro was involved in, where Robert Ross was the victim, and then there was a Main Street Mafia Crip investigation. Detective Caouette requested that the case be reassigned to them. Their request was granted. After reviewing the case, investigators plan to speak with the subjects involved with the kidnap robbery and assault of victim Ross. The purpose was to stimulate conversation on the wiretap. So they're going to go interview these guys from Main Street who were allegedly outsourced to handle Robert Ross and victimize Robert Ross to get this tape back. They took money from him allegedly, and the police went to interview them to shake them up so maybe they'll get to talking on the phone, stimulate conversation about the crime on the phone. They interviewed Ross. He interviewed Robert Ross with his partner, Paul Fournier, at LA County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau. So his partner, Paul Fournier, is the lead investigator. Remember this before we get to the second day of the manufacturing of plant, Wack 100, that the lead investigator of the DeJa34, Shaquille O'Neal, Mark Stevens, Stutterbox, kidnap robbery, assault, extortion, blackmail investigation was Paul Fournier and his partner, Detective Michael Caouette. So when Wack 100 brings Reggie Wright Jr. and Detective Greg Caden and introduce them as the lead investigators of the DeJa34 investigation, he was being deceptive and manipulating you guys to defend him being confidential source. Too bad. Paul Fournier told Tim Brennan that an informant with ties to Piru Bloods and Death Row had identified Anderson as Tupac's shooter, right? April 28th, 2009, was with the LA Sheriff Department team raiding Saldana's home. In the course of a neighborhood sweep, they seized 51 baggies of marijuana. Sheriffs arrested Saldana's wife and put Saldana's children in Department of Children Services and utilized that as leverage to make and flip Saldana. Imagine that. 51 bags of weed. Say they were nickel bags, right? 51 nickel bags of weed, a couple ounces, QP, say about a QP, right? Quarter pound of marijuana. And this dude, this police officer, it wants a conviction and information so bad that is when Saldana said, "Oh, that's my weed." No, we're arresting your wife, right? And now we're going to put your kids in Department of Children's Services because you won't give us the information we want. We're going to tear your family up. These is the type of police officers that the sheriffs, the LA sheriffs, got working in the inner city communities and ghettos, predominantly populated by melanated blacks and so-called blacks and Latinos. He was also Detective Caouette's partner, and he used that leverage to flip Saldana. A sheriff investigator report said that a flurry of calls between the alleged ringleader of the assault with Del Dog and O'Neal's business partner Mark Stevens happened around the time of the alleged kidnapping of Ross. So Paul Fournier, in 1996, Paul Fournier told Compton Police Department cops that Brennan and Ladd, that an informant with ties to Piru Bloods and Death Row, had identified Anderson as Tupac Shakur's shooter. So these guys are already since 1996 have a relationship with and have been building with Tim Brennan, him and his partner, Robert Ladd, and we'll get into, y'all remember that information specifically for when we get back to the DeJa34 investigation, the Main Street Mafia Crip investigation. And but first I want to get into COINTELPRO. Let's go here.
Deemed a threat to the existing social and political order between 1950 and 1971, then they almost certainly were. COINTELPRO, short for Counterintelligence Program, was an FBI program designed to infiltrate, monitor, and discredit members of various organizations through covert and illegal means. The groups targeted included both left-leaning groups such as the Communist Party, feminist and civil rights activism groups, and anti-war protesters, as well as right-leaning groups like the KKK and the National States Rights Party. The list of abuses by J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI is seemingly endless. Among their more mundane activities were psychological warfare and leaking fake documents to the press to defame a person. When things got severe, targets of COINTELPRO would find themselves falsely imprisoned, with the FBI engaging in perjury, witness intimidation and harassment, and withholding exculpatory evidence. In the worst cases, COINTELPRO took part in assassinations, though who specifically was assassinated by COINTELPRO is not a matter of public record. Some of the program's known targets included Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Ernest Hemingway, Viola Luzo, and Fred Hampton. Is the government?
So that's a little something to let you know a little bit more about COINTELPRO, and we'll get rid of that one. Now let me go ahead and pull up another little short on COINTELPRO, and then we're going to get into these actual agencies. So now you guys know Detective Russell Poole, you guys know about Greg Caden, you guys know about Darren Dupree and his ties to hip-hop, his understanding and knowledge of hip-hop, right? And we'll get into more of that also. Let me see what we could get into with let's get into exposing the LAPD. Oh yeah, here go the short. Let's start this over. This is who they send into our communities.
Is tough to watch.
Gang unit officers.
I wouldn't go to Syria. I wouldn't go to Iraq. I wouldn't go to Afghanistan. I wouldn't go to Yemen. I wouldn't go to Tunisia. I wouldn't go to Lebanon. I wouldn't go to Jordan. I would do it here.
This is what they do to our Latino and Hispanic populations. They sick them into our communities who don't understand our culture, who don't understand our history, and that we fought for their ancestors to have civil rights, right? And we're being attacked, and our leaders and leadership decimated in our community so that they could steadily chip away at those civil rights, those human rights that we fought for and solidified on behalf of their ancestors. And they put them in as part of the Rampart scandal. This is nasty work. None of them look like us. But just like we got house niggas, so do they. It don't, just like we got ignorant people within our community, so do they. You know what I'm saying? So let's get to this one real quick. This one, we could get rid of that one. We can close that up. And we're going to get into one more about COINTELPRO, and then we're going to get into the Rampart scandal and how all of this ties in. Let's go. It's only a 1 minute clip. Shouldn't take that long. Let's go.
We know the government watches us, but what about when government surveillance changes the course of history? In the 1960s,
government surveillance.
The U.S. government started a program called COINTELPRO, or the Counterintelligence Program. The program was a series of secret FBI initiatives targeting activists, political, and minority groups. The American Indian Movement, the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, women's and civil rights groups, Vietnam War protesters, and anyone who got the government seeing red. Tactics used included infiltration and surveying and discrediting leaders and causes in order to undermine entire movements and organizations. But a lot of what COINTELPRO did was illegal, and it was officially disbanded in 1971. Though if you ask many activist groups and political dissidents, it still exists, just in another form.
It still exists, just in another form. Nasty work. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of that. And we finna show y'all about a little bit about Rampart, because these same police officers that we were talking about, Detective Russell Poole was investigating and is the one that took down Rafael Perez. Let's show y'all and get into this, man, because this is going to get good. Let's jump down this rabbit hole of dirty pigs.
You know, it's what you can prove. This haunting line, uttered by Denzel Washington's corrupt LAPD narcotics officer Alonzo Harris in the 2001 crime thriller Training Day, encapsulates the moral descent of the very real-life rogue cop whose actions inspired the iconic character, Rafael Perez. Just like Harris, Perez's actions exposed a dark underbelly of police corruption that rocked the Los Angeles Police Department to its core. Born in Puerto Rico in 1967, Rafael Perez joined the LAPD in 1989 after serving in the Marines. His aggressive persona and streetwise ways quickly earned him a reputation, leading to his transfer in 1995 to the elite Rampart Division anti-gang crash. The Community Resource Against Street Hoodlums Unit. It was here that
Let me get some of this up out of here, man.
Perez's moral descent began. Immersing himself in the world of
I don't know what's going on.
Gangs and narcotics, Perez adopted the same us against them mentality that defined Alonzo Harris. He operated with the arrogance of being above the law, part cop and part gangbanger, just like his cinematic counterpart. In the book Bad, Infamy, Darkness, Evil, and Slime on Screen, writer Aaron Baker directly links the two, saying the film's Alonzo Harris is a composite of the Rampart villain Perez and David Mack, both Latino and African American, part cop and part gangbanger. Perez's job became his intoxicant, and the ends justified the means, no matter how corrupt or illegal his actions were. In his own words, we vaguely sensed we were doing the wrong things for the right reasons. Time and again, I stepped over that line. Once crossed, I hurtled over it again and again, landing with both feet sometimes on innocent persons. My job became an intoxicant that I lusted after. Just as Harris had no qualms about shaking down drug dealers, Perez admitted to stealing drugs from police evidence lockers and reselling them on the streets through his girlfriend, a Salvadoran mistress akin to Harris's lover Veronica in the film. He confessed to hundreds of instances of perjury, falsifying evidence, and false arrest, all to put gang members behind bars, guilty or not. In one particularly heinous act mirroring Harris's actions in Training Day, Perez and his partner, Nino Durden, shot and framed an unarmed 19-year-old gang member, Javier Ovando, leaving him paralyzed based on their lies and planted evidence. Ovando's wrongful conviction, based solely on Perez's perjury, would later be vacated, with the city awarding him $15 million, the largest police misconduct settlement in its history. The Rampart Crash Unit had become a gang of its own, a secret fraternity where crimes were committed and celebrated, just like the Blue Brotherhood depicted in Training Day. Perez's actions, from planting evidence to reselling stolen drugs, were all part of the organized criminal subculture that had taken root within the LAPD's anti-gang efforts. Perez's sordid narrative was just one piece of the real-life Rampart scandal, a densely woven tapestry of police corruption, gang activity, and celebrity ties. It began unraveling in November 1997 when a bank robbery crew stole over $700,000 from a Los Angeles Bank of America branch. The mastermind was soon identified as David Mack, not just a criminal, but an active LAPD officer with ties to the notorious Mob Piru Blood street gang. Mack's illicit world collided with Perez's, as the two had previously been partners in the Crash Unit. The discoveries opened a Pandora's box of transgression, from evidence tampering and assault to alleged involvement in the still unsolved murder of rap icon, the notorious B.I.G. The lines between cops and criminals had blurred completely in this criminal subculture, festering within the department's rank and file. Events mirroring many of the corrupt acts depicted in Training Day began coming to light. It all came crashing down in 1998 when Perez was caught stealing 6 pounds of cocaine worth $800,000 from the police property room. His arrest uncovered a Pandora's box of rampant misconduct, including planting evidence, perjury, beating suspects, and connections to the bank robbery. The depths of depravity were shocking. Crimes celebrated within this criminal subculture masquerading as a police force. The full extent of the corruption was even more disturbing than initially realized. The fallout was immense. Over 100 tainted convictions overturned, 200 lawsuits filed against the city, and $125 million paid in settlements. The depths of corruption exposed shattered public trust in law enforcement and led to the disbanding of all crash units by the year 2000, as it became clear just how deeply embedded these criminal practices were within the special units. Director Antoine Fuqua drew from his own experience with corrupt police officers to develop a gritty portrayal of these issues in his 2001 crime thriller Training Day. Growing up in a tough Pittsburgh neighborhood gave Fuqua unique insight into the dubious police conduct. Fuqua's background influenced his nuanced characterization of Denzel Washington's Alonzo Harris, an officer who cautions his trainee that
the shit's chess, it ain't checkers.
Underscoring how the high-stakes nature of their work can corrupt even sworn protectors, transforming them into criminal kingpins that blur the lines of justice. A concept all too real given the criminal subculture exposed within the Rampart division in the wake of Perez's arrest. The parallels between Rafael Perez's real downfall and Harris's fictional storyline were uncanny. Perez's tragic descent from officer to criminal mirrored the corruption at the heart of Training Day. His arrest for cocaine theft epitomized the moral bankruptcy targeted by the film. In this way, Perez's story served as the perfect inspiration for Denzel Washington's haunting and disturbing portrayal of a crooked cop corrupted by absolute power.
And there you have it. That's the essence of the Rampart scandal. We're going to get rid of that link, and we're going to go right back into let you guys know a little bit more. Let's go into this PBS thing. Oh, hold on. I got to share it with y'all first. Let me share that with y'all. And it gives a little bit more insight of these characters. I want to make sure that you've been introduced to the foulness of law enforcement. One of the reasons why those in our community don't work with them. So when you lames that have been colonized mentally and who accepted that defeat and have no fight left in you, and you integrate into society and accept that lesser position up under the dominance of white supremacy, right? and you choose that you decide to work with and live and accept what they have to offer you, this is why we go against you. So Rafael Perez, the officer at the center of the Rampart scandal, in 1998, he was arrested for stealing cocaine from a police evidence room. After his trial ended in a hung jury, prosecutors traced more drug thefts to Perez. Faced with the mounting evidence, Perez cut a deal with the prosecutors in which he agreed to testify about police misconduct in exchange for a 5-year prison sentence. After reviewing more than 1,500 arrests, Perez identified 91 problematic cases, from bad shootings, meaning that the police shot people wrongfully, to fabricated evidence, which means they were planting drugs and guns and drugs on alleged suspects. I went through that. Bad shootings. I could have been that, but they missed 2 bullets, missed when Officer Messenger, Livingston's partner, missed the 2 shootings on the 2 gun bullets missed me. They never wrote a report about it, a discharge in a firearm. They never wrote a report about discharging their firearm, and they left there. There were witnesses who seen this. They planted drugs on me. I had witnesses who they told him that they were gonna get me when they seen me, and they did. I got witnesses who they bragged about planting drugs on me after it happened. But at that point, this was right before this was exposed. I'm in the county jail in 1999 when this was exposed, fighting the case where the police had planted dope on me and had just took a plea agreement to terrorist threats on the police officers, which no contest. I pleaded no contest, and they dismissed the dope that I never seen till today. I never seen that dope. I never had any dope. Battery and obstructing and resisting executive officer. These are the beefed up charges that they put on there, and I pled out to the terrorist threat, which I did threaten the police after they'd already shot at me, planted drugs on me. Yeah, I did threaten the police, but it was only after they had did all of that. But anyway, Perez implicated 70 officers in criminal or administrative wrongdoing. As a result, nearly 100 criminal convictions have been overturned and millions of dollars in settlement have been paid out. Nino Durden, along with partner Ray Perez, LAPD officer Nino Durden shot, framed, and then testified against unarmed 19-year-old gang member Javier Ovando in 1996. Ovando, I believe, is the SA from 18th Street, where my sister's from. Hey, shout out to La Traviesa, King Boulevard, 18th Street. Arrested for attempted murder in July 2000, Durden pled guilty to 10 state and federal charges, including the false arrest of Ovando, and is expected to receive a sentence of up to 8 years in prison. As part of the plea deal, Durden is cooperating with investigators, including possible testimony against Perez. I thought that the guy who started the joint task force and hired Greg Caden to head it said that he didn't believe one word Perez stated. Well, this officer, Nino Durden, is saying that he didn't lie. He pled guilty that Ray Perez didn't lie about everything, because he even corroborates some of Ray Perez's statements and is ready to cooperate against Rafael Perez. So they had to be telling some kind of truths. So the leader of the guy who hired Greg Caden for his task force after the Biggie Smalls mother in the state, her and Faith Evans, the state of Biggie Small filed a $400 million lawsuit, was biased from the beginning. David Mack, former partner of Rafael Perez, LAPD officer David Mack, was convicted of the 1997 theft of $722,000 from a Bank of America branch in Los Angeles, which happened to be at the University of Southern California Village, the USC Village. You know what I'm saying? Where I grew up, worked at 32nd Street Market. Not officially. I helped old women and old people with their grocery. Hey, can I carry your groceries to your bag for tips? Yeah, I was a young hustler, homeless child. So that's what I did. 2 days after the bank robbery, Mack took a gambling trip to Las Vegas with 2 other police officers, including Rafael Perez. In the course of investigating the bank robbery, detectives developed leads that caused them to believe at the time that Mack was a possible suspect in the 1997 murder of East Coast rap star Biggie Smalls, a.k.a. Notorious B.I.G. Mack is serving a 14-year sentence, has reportedly claimed association with as a Paru Blood, an LA gang that has ties to Death Row Records. Mob Paru. Yeah, when I got to the special management unit, me and the homie S.I. murder with Sellies. When I came back after I got re-indicted by the feds. I went back to LA and I beat the assault, the new indictment, which was 3 assault on federal correctional officer charges. Officer Gomez and Officer C.O. Gutierrez, Andres Gutierrez. I beat that in trial. Well, I was found not guilty in trial. I didn't beat it because I wasn't guilty. It was beefed up charges. The same kind of stuff that was going on with these Rampart scandal and these crash units throughout Los Angeles, right? But when I got to the smooth, the police asked me, hey, Sims, are you a blood? You're a Crip or a Blood? I said, I'm a Blood from LA. They said, oh, do you know David Mack? He said that he's a Blood. He's a Mob Paru. So he went to the feds claiming nobody wasn't going to do nothing to him. This is Bloods, M.O.B. You know what I'm saying? But he's a suspect in the Biggie Small murder investigation. This is what this paperwork is asserting. You know what I'm saying? These dirty cops were doing all of this stuff. So I done gave y'all a summary of what's going on with these dirty pigs and what was going on with the Rampart scandal. Y'all seen that. And those is the ones. Let me let you know a little bit about the executioners, right? I don't know if y'all know about the executioners. Compton. You know what I'm saying? Compton. Let me let y'all know about them, and then we'll be done with these police. It's almost an hour in, and we ain't even got to what we want to get to. Let's get to this real quick. The Executioners is a deputy gang within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Congressional leader Maxine Waters called for a Department of Justice inquiry into the existence of the gang. Members of the Executioner are deputies operating out of Compton Station of the LASD. These deputies share a tattoo which features a skeleton with an assault rifle and a military-style helmet. The gang was founded by former 2000 Boys member Andy Toon. Members of the Executioners are drawn from deputies who work at Compton Station at LA Sheriff's Department. Knock LA has reported that the gang consists of around 80 members. Potential recruits are chosen based on past acts of violence against members of the Compton community. This is how their secret society in the police station are chosen, by violence against members of the Compton community. They're supposed to protect and serve the community, yet they have gangs that are specially recruited, secret societies recruited by their acts of violence against members of the community, and recruits cannot be black or female. They sound like the KKK. You know what I'm saying? This is what's going on in Compton. The executioners. Let me run this video real quick for y'all. Y'all can hear how they talk about what's going on, because y'all might not believe me or Wikipedia. Let's get into this real quick, man.
Tattoo depicts a skeleton in flames, an AK-47, and a Nazi-style helmet. Miriam Hernandez has a closer look at the pressure mounting on the department to open their files on any groups like this.
From inside the Compton Sheriff Station, a
Damu Keyway conversation. This computer must be full. It is really messing up. And I know I got internet. Let's go. Yeah, it definitely has the internet access on. I don't know why it's doing this. I might have to cut some.
Deputies claim filed with the county about an aggressive band of his cohorts allegedly in control. According to the claim, members are branded with a sinister logo,
which is a skeleton wearing a Nazi helmet with an AK-47 laughing,
and go by a sinister name, the Executioners, which according to the claim does not allow African American or female members. Deputy Art Gonzalez alleges the deputy gang is trampling on the rights of citizens and targeting him as a whistleblower.
Deputy Gonzalez, he's afraid for his safety right now, as he should be. This is a violent gang, violence, shootings, beatings.
Why y'all beating him?
Claims of excessive force and much more. And the timing. As community outcry demands systemic change, allegations in the filing claim that as many as 40% of Compton deputies are inked executioners or prospects. Rumblings reaching the sheriff.
Well, first of all, there is no gang of any deputies running any station right now. This matter has already been receiving very swift administrative action. We've already taken positive steps.
Pressure for change is intensifying. Professor Sean Kennedy at Loyola Law School releasing a 2-year study of deputy gangs, including the executioners.
Often, the inking is attached to some kind of act of violence, including a shooting. It's the ultimate expression of your commitment to policing and your commitment to the deputy gang.
The complainant, Deputy Art Gonzalez, is a former U.S. Marine decorated for his service in Iraq, Afghanistan. Here in Compton, once praised for speedy action to save a 4-year-old boy shot in the head. The tipping point? Gonzalez says he witnessed a deputy executioner assaulting a fellow deputy. Gonzalez called a confidential tip line for internal affairs. To his shock, he says in his claim, the recording was intercepted.
Wow. Y'all see how deep the corruption go in? So here you got a Compton sheriff, LA sheriff out of the Compton division who knows about this gang. He knows that over 40% are members of the Compton sheriffs, are members of the executioners or prospects to be members of the executioner. This guy became a police officer, obviously, to try to do good and to make good in these communities. He even got famous for saving a girl, a little baby, out of a car. And he didn't have too much of a problem with this gang and underground society within the administration until he seen the executioners beat up another sheriff. So he tries to make a tip to be a whistleblower, right? And hits the internal affairs, and it was intercepted by some executioners. That's how powerful they are. And then the head of he comes to try to do damage control with the concerns of those in the community who understand what's going on by this racist sheriff gang within the police department. Hey, listen, man. Hip hop police, anti-black, anti-community. This is what the slave catchers. These police stations were started as slave catchers. This is what is being unleashed into our communities. Introduction to COINTELPRO and the crooked cops involved. Now y'all know about some of these cops, and we're gonna let you know about some of their informants. Damu Kiwe Conversations. We got